So thanks for your attention. We'll now hear from Marianne Graham. She'll tell a little bit about MFP Bridge Subsidy.
Thanks, Wayne. So as you can see, the Money Follows the Person Bridge Subsidy was started with $2.5 million from rebalancing funds. Rebalancing funds are funds that the state receives for a transition. So every person that transitions from an institution saves the state money by transitioning from the institution back into the community. And then those funds are then again applied back to the community. So this is one of the programs that was established in the beginning of the demonstration. So to be eligible for the bridge subsidy, you must be eligible for Money Follows the Person. So you have to meet the criteria that Wayne just described. And that's by completing an MFP questionnaire and signing the MFP consent form that you're agreeing to participate in the program. Also eligible for the bridge subsidy are folks who are in the brain injury waiver, who are transitioning from an alternative living unit, folks who are in DDA, in the Community Pathways waiver, and transitioning from a group home or an alternative living unit. People who are in the Community Options waiver, transitioning from an assisted living facility to independent renting. So for the MFP Bridge Subsidy, folks have to be 18 or over. And we don't have an upper limit on the age range. They have to have a household income of $19,000 or less. And as with all the other programs, they must meet the requirements of the local public housing authority and the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So the bridge subsidy is tenant-based rental assistance similar to the Housing Choice Voucher. So basically the tenant pays 30% of their income to rent and utilities, and then a rental subsidy up to the fair market rent is paid to the landlord through the local housing authority. Rental assistance for the bridge subsidy is up to 3 years, and then people will transition to a Housing Choice Voucher, or in some jurisdictions, they may transfer to a project-based housing. Mostly that's Montgomery County, but you know, it depends on what the local jurisdiction has available at the time that the person is transitioning. So, and like I said, it's up to 3 years. Sometimes people transition sooner than that, but they have the subsidy available for up to 3 years. And then supports planners or case managers or CCSs can assist people with applying for the program. They also have to apply through Social Serve. So we work closely with Christina and Chelsea around those applications. Next slide, please. So these are the participating jurisdictions for the bridge subsidy, and it covers quite a large amount of the state, but not every county may necessarily have subsidies available. So you see Anne Arundel and Baltimore City kind of highlighted in orange there. We're working with them to figure out how many commitments we have left, actually. We've had a number of referrals for Baltimore City. So there may be less than, they committed to 15, but we currently have a number of people who are referred and searching. And Anne Arundel originally committed 7, and we're in the process of connecting with them to find out how many they still have left and available. So Baltimore County is mostly full, but there's still a few available. There have been some referrals. Carroll County committed to 5, Easton, Hagerstown, Hartford, all committed to 5. As you can see, shaded in gray, Howard, Montgomery, and Prince George's County are actually full at this time. So there's no bridge subsidy available in those counties. And then the other counties that DHCD covers on Eastern Shore, but also in the West, do have subsidies available. Unfortunately, the demand is more for the kind of metro areas at this time. Next slide. So to date, the bridge subsidy has housed 63 households since the program inception. There are 38 households currently in the program, and 12 households have transitioned to housing choice vouchers. And that number changes somewhat. So there may have been a few more transitions since the last time I updated this slide. So between March 2020 and August 2021, during the pandemic, there have been 24 referrals to the bridge subsidy program. Unfortunately, our transitions are down right now, mostly due to the pandemic and the difficulty with transitioning during a pandemic. Although we did have some transitions, so some people were able to work, with their support networks and their supports planners and their case managers in order to make that happen. So as you can see with the breakdown, we've had 6 referrals for Baltimore City during that period of time, 6 referrals for Baltimore County, 2 referrals for DHCD on the Eastern Shore, 3 referrals to Western, so that was Hagerstown and Frederick, 1 referral to Harford County, 2 referrals again for Hagerstown, the city of Hagerstown, 1 referral for Montgomery County, and 3 referrals for St. Mary's County. So we hope that we will have more referrals. If you have any questions about the bridge subsidy or who might be eligible, please feel free to reach out and contact me. We are available to assist with planning transition. So I hope that everyone on the presentation, and if you know of anybody, will feel free to contact me. And as we go through the presentation, my contact information and Wayne's contact information will be available at the end of these slides, which I believe will be sent out to all the participants. Okay. All right, Chelsea.
All right, sure. Thanks so much for that, Marianne. And I might actually ask Christina to chime in a little bit about the CCH program and leasing activities, but I'll just go over like the basic eligibility information. These are 2 of our local partnerships. So MDOD is always looking to work with housing authorities throughout the state to identify in the event they have available the vouchers possibly that they're targeting to people with disabilities through maybe the mainstream voucher program, if we can send referrals their way or get case managers connected to them to be able to fill some of those slots. But we also have special relationships with Montgomery and Howard counties. The Community Choice Homes program is one of those special relationships. It was really kind of teed off by Diane Dressler, who I know is on this call. So the premise of this program is that, again, participants are paying 30% of their monthly gross household income for rent and utilities. And there's a live-work preference for this program. So an applicant must live or work in the county at the time of referral, or lived or worked within 5 years of the referral and currently live in an institution or group living setting. These units are based in buildings that are owned by the Housing Authority for Montgomery County, and they are affordable for people with disabilities for a 15-year period, although the program documents do allow for renewals of that 15-year period. So Christina has worked very hard at leasing for this program. We have 21 participants who are presently enrolled in the program, And then 5 of these people have transitioned from the MFP bridge subsidy into CCH. Christina, did you want to chat at all about what we're working on right now in terms of properties for the CCH program?
Sure. So I actually want to shout out to Diane Dressler because she actually pioneered the community choice homes and the lease up before I started working with them. So thank you, Diane, for getting probably 20 to 21 of the participants housed. So thank you. We are currently working with HOC on 2 more units have been identified at Brook Manor. They are 2 one-bedroom units that are ADA accessible. So they have applications right now for those units that are being processed, which brings us to 23. So as that's 6 more units to be identified. And as HOC finds units within their portfolio that are a good fit, or we'll bring them to the Department of Disabilities for us to see if it's going to be a good fit for the program, location, transportation, things like that. You know, we make the decision to go back to the wait list and make referrals for those units. So I think the goal is by the end of the fiscal year, so by the end of June 2021, June 2022, we hope to have those additional 6 units filled for CCH.
Yeah, and I think another thing I just want to point out about this program in particular is we work collaboratively with the Housing Authority on this program. So a lot of our work in this program is liaising with them, and they kind of work with the property manager of the specific building in order to help with the actual lease up for this program. It does have different parameters than the 811 and Weinberg programs. So that's just something that, you know, if you're working with a client in Montgomery County and you think that they might qualify for this program, please reach out to Christina or myself, because some of the eligibility requirements are different because of the type of program that it is. We have a lot of units in this program that are located in downtown Silver Spring. There's a lot of revitalization work going on there currently. So we have been able to mostly identify units in that area, and I believe also Chevy Chase. So all of the units for this program seem to be located in optimal transit areas. So I know that there's a pretty extensive transportation system that connects a lot of these properties. The Disability Income Housing Units Program, or DIHU, in Howard County, this is an alternative compliance strategy for for-profit developers who are producing market rate units in the county. What that means is that when a private developer goes to Howard County, approaches their planning commission and say that they want to build a luxury apartment building, the county government has the provision that these developers are also responsible to build some affordable housing or create affordable housing within the building that they are going to build. So in Howard County, they had passed legislation to allow for disability income housing units to be built as another way of developers meeting this criteria, this requirement that the county has put upon them. So these affordable units are for people with disabilities who have incomes at or below 20% of the AMI. Although our programs have the income threshold of 30%, I'd say the great majority of people on our wait list have incomes well below 20. So there's a focus on targeting those groups in particular. We have not yet identified buildings that are going to be in this program in particular, or developers to target, but we're open to partnering with people. So if you have any suggestions, thoughts, or ideas about this, I'm happy to listen in on that. I will say that this program did start right before the pandemic, and construction has slowed significantly since the pandemic started. So we have been impacted by that, by the supply shortages and things like that, in really getting this program up and going. So this is all of our contact information. Myself, Marianne, Wayne, and Christina. I saw somebody had raised their hand. And we can take questions now as well. I just want to get to that person. And Rita Robertson. I have indicated I've asked to meet you.
Hello, thanks for taking my raising my hand. Okay, just so as a resident who lives here in Howard County, one of the things the developers are doing, they're supposed to provide housing for folks who meet the criteria, but what's happening is that they're putting them in the old villages. And it's been an argument in and around the Columbia area. And so they're not taking on the responsibility of having housing in those luxury, beautiful places that are really designated, that should be at least one or how many they want to designate for the folks. So I just want to encourage you guys, if you can be very specific with them, is it going to be in the actual location that they're developing? Because what they're doing is they're relocating them to the older villages, which is wearing out the resources for those areas, for the schools, for the libraries, you know, for everything, is for everyone who lives in that area. The educational system has been suffering in Howard County because what they've been doing is relocating everyone to just one location, you know, to the older villages, who are not prepared to take on or equipped to take on all the subsidized housing that's coming from the new developers. And I was very involved in the whole process about 3 years ago. So that's the only reason why I know about that now, unless something changed recently. But I just want to make sure that you guys are very specific with them about where they're actually going to house people, not just them designating, because everyone should share in being able to be a blessing, not just the older villages.
Right. So I think that's a bit of a misconception, with all due respect. I mean, the issue is that, and I've sat in many meetings where people have had concerns about resources being squandered or what have you. But I think that, the fact is that people need housing. There's not enough of it. There needs to be more housing available for people who are at the lowest incomes. I don't understand why it would be an issue for somebody who is low income to move to a community where there are resources available. And I do think that it's important to, educate yourself on both sides of the picture, right? You don't want to just get the perspective of perhaps people who are of the belief that, the schools are going to be overcrowded. I think that it's a lot more than that. So that's just my personal opinion. And I will say that in addition to that, our department is not involved in making those decisions about where that housing is located. We are just looking at places where we can have units affordable for a person with a disability. Because at the end of the day, a person with a disability, especially if it's one person, they may or may not necessarily be bringing a full family of individuals with them to move to have their kids in the school system. So that's another thing to consider. Without these opportunities, there's literally no other places for people to go except to stay in an institutional setting, which is not going to help somebody with a disability if they do not want to be there. So that's just food for thought. And I encourage people to really look at both sides of the equation and not just, one part of the argument, right? I'm happy to send you resources about that. There's a lot of publications that housing specialists and experts have done on the issues that you're talking about. And I'm sure that they are much more capable of explaining it in detail than I am. But I encourage people to just really get educated on both sides of the picture. Okay, very good.
Thank you. Thank you. I have, and I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying not to have people in. Please don't misunderstand me. I just wanted you to know just to encourage you guys to make sure that they're actually providing it and giving them and giving them choices because they weren't getting choices. And that's all it was, because I was dealing with both. Believe me, I was dealing with the whole aspect of it. But
That's
thank
not
you so
something
much.
our agency is involved with, but I appreciate
Okay.
you making that comment.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. So moving along, are there any other questions that people have before we move on to, I want to give our presenter from our other state agency, DHCD, to give a little opportunity to present on information updates from that agency as well. Does anyone else have any other questions you want to ask though before I move on, and then we will get to our guest presenter, Miss Graham. Okay. I think we're good to go, but anyone who's on the call, you're welcome to reach out to me if you have any follow-up questions, or anyone who's presented today. Please, give us a shout out and feel free to contact us. All right, so without further ado, Lakeisha, I wanted you to say a couple words about what your role is. She's brand new to the partnership, well, pretty brand new. And so I'm really excited to have her join. She's been wonderful to work with. And yeah, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you everyone for having me. It's an awesome opportunity to be here. So again, my name is Lakeisha Vaughn, and I am the Deputy Director here at the Department of Housing and Community Development. And I work directly with the 811 program, as well as the Money Follows the Person and the Weinberg. So I am the person at DHCD that is working directly with all of those programs, these wonderful programs that are benefiting persons with disabilities. As Chelsea stated, I am, fairly new here. So there is a lot going on here at DHCD, but I wanted to thank all of our partners at MDH as well as MDOD, because without the partnerships that we have in them, the success of the 811 program would not, have been successful thus far. A lot of the information that I had to cover was covered, thoroughly by Chelsea. So I did want to just direct people to our agency's website if you wanted to take a look at the report, the needs assessment that Chelsea mentioned, and that can be located on our website at https //dhcd.maryland, that's the state Maryland spelled out, .gov. And if you go to the search bar, type in needs assessment, and the report should actually be the first thing that comes up. And then, as Chelsea also stated, we were awarded under, we applied under FY19. So we were recently awarded a 6.9, well, we're in the process of being awarded a $6.9 million grant under the 811 PRA. And we will be going through the process of solidifying the cooperative agreement between us and HUD. And once we have that finalized, it looks like we're anticipating identifying approximately 93 units under that grant for extremely low persons with disabilities throughout the state. So we're very excited about that. And under the 811, under the Weinberg, we recently awarded 6 units at Artist Flats in Howard County, as well as Ellicott Gardens 2 in Howard County as well. They have 2 units there, one bedroom and 1 2-bedroom unit. So we look forward to bringing those units online in the future. And that was all that I had. So thank you all.
All right, great. Thank you so much for that update, Lakeisha. And I am going to go ahead and exit sharing my screen. And I'm going to have, does anyone have any other questions or information that you want to share? Just wanted to indicate on the slide that I had with Wayne's contact information, I made a mistake on his phone number. So his correct phone number is in the chat if you are in need of that information. All right, so let me go ahead and pull up. Oh, I do have one question. Danae asked, will we receive this PowerPoint? Yes, I am happy to provide a copy of the PowerPoint to people who have attended today. Samuel Odekon, looks like you have a question. Let's see. Sam, can you unmute yourself? Let's see. Sam, I'm trying to unmute you, but I don't know if I don't know if you're able to do that. Let's see. Okay, let's see. So Sam, I'm asking to unmute you. I don't know if you're joined through the computer, but you're still muted. Okay. If you want to type your question in the Q&A, I can take a look at it while Jeanette's presenting and give you a response, and maybe we can, also at the end have a if it's a question that more people are I think might be of interest to more people, I can go ahead and just answer it live as well. And a couple people are asking for Lakeisha's contact information, so I'm just gonna pop her email in the chat. So that is her email address. Let me get Jeanette's presentation up. One moment here. Unless Jeanette, if you wanted to control your slides, I don't know what you might be able, I think you can share your screen if you wanted to control your slides, up to you though.
I actually did not upload the slides. I'm going to have an organic presentation with you guys.
Oh, okay, that works too. So
I'll put my information in the chat though.
Okay, that sounds good. So I will go ahead, because I have the information up here, I'll go ahead and do a brief little synopsis of Miss Graham and her organization. Jeanette Graham is the president of No Struggle, No Success Incorporated. She established the vision for transitioning youth and adults back into the community from serving time in a detention center or prison, using the restorative power of mentorship and the positive effects it can have on mental health and navigating life. As the leader of NSNS, she is committed to fostering an environment that is built around community, positivity, and collaboration to support our reentry population and help them be successful. She creates opportunities for youth and adults to desire to learn something new and improve their lives in a judgment-free environment. Jeanette has a BS in Information Systems and is a CE grant specialist. She has 20 years of experience working in healthcare administration in information technology in multiple sectors, including profit, public, and corporate environments, and interacting with volunteers and diverse boards. Jeanette has 10 years of experience in grants management, specifically identifying and developing strategies to optimize the grants process, coordinate preparation of all grant applications and initial draft of budgets, and cultivate strong and lasting partnerships with donors, community leaders, and public organizations. Jeanette participates in several community outreach programs promoting public safety and health in the vulnerable populations. So Jeanette, I will go ahead and let you take it away from here. I don't know if Stanley's joining us or not, but
Actually, no, he's actually helping one of our new clients who is a mother of 5 children who served time for 3 years, has 5 kids, and we've been able to get her a housing voucher.
that's awesome.
Less than 2
Okay.
weeks. So he's on the field. So
That's awesome. Very, very good news to hear. So he's doing some extremely important work right now. So that's amazing.
yeah.
All right, Jeanette, we'll take it away. I'm excited to hear from you.
Well, first, thanks for having me, Chelsea, and great information. I can't wait to get a hold of that PowerPoint so I can share with the rest of my team. To the rest of the audience, yes, our nonprofit organization is located in Baltimore City. We serve throughout the state of Maryland, giving and delivering community-based services for intense mentorship for youth and young adults who find themselves in the legal and criminal system. From a youth and a young adult side, we serve from 11 to 24 years of age. These individuals have IEP, individualized education plans, 504 learning and behavior disabilities, and throughout the state, they make accommodations. These youth also have parents who've been incarcerated, they became teen parents, or they also find themselves in the juvenile justice system. We create a empowerment program to avoid their path into the adult prison. Many of them who have these difficulties and these challenges find themselves in the going to prison, and my program tries our best to make sure that they do not go there. We also provide resources around quality education, and we utilize those external programs to promote positive and behavior and social skills. As it relates to the adults who have served time in prison, we create a home plan for them to help them transition back into the community. We start before they leave prison to ensure that their home plan is aligned with them not returning back to prison. We also dive into their support system, their friends, their family, community partners and leaders who they can contact when they do have a challenge. We also have within my department program staff where we direct them to be mentors. We start off by obtaining their digital fingerprint, those vital records that they need, their ID, their birth certificate, their social security card, and of course, medical insurance. Then we move on to their immediate needs as it relates to mental health providers and primary care providers to ensure that we try our best to get those healthcare services addressed. And then we move on to their eligibility for any government benefits. So we have a computer lab on site where we sign up for technology training classes, and then they'll be able to apply for food stamps and disability, SSA, SSI, if they are eligible for TCA benefits and any other monetary funding. We have case managers here to walk them through that process. And then we jumped on to their family structure. Many of the returning citizens have outlived their parents and grandparents, and unfortunately their children. And then there's others who are happy to reunite with their family. We work along with them and their medical providers to navigate those uncomfortable conversations that they have because they were in prison, that neglect that took place, the embarrassment, the shame, the guilt of their behavior and actions, and find ways that they can be forgiven for whatever took place in their past and what led them to prison. When someone goes to prison, the entire family is affected. It goes from single family parent households, grandparents and uncles and aunts stepping in, and they are exhausted from either raising their children or traveling back and forth to the prison, maybe supporting them with their commissary, accepting phone calls, whether on Zoom, and even paying those bills. All those things are challenging for the returning citizen and the family to support them. So that person may be during that time, but also those loved ones as well. There's a lot that is involved with someone that's coming home from prison, and it can be really discouraging for those individuals and those family members. So we try to avoid the excuses from them returning to prison, and we also try to address that discouragement. A part of NSNS program services, we identify and address barriers such as substance abuse, mental health diagnosis, and even self-care. Throughout our program services, we have monthly workshops and focus groups around trigger management and gaining the prospect on their character development, their employment, their apprenticeship, again, their technology training, and then it goes into home renting and home buying. We do have health education courses here, job readiness, reading, writing, and financial literacy. All these things are done on site and or in conjunction with one of our sub-awardees or our grant contractors. We implement these services to ensure that they become self-sufficient and truly regroup back into society. So how do we recruit our returning citizens or our youth? We have a partnership with Baltimore City Schools. Right now, we were allotted 6. I've started off with 3 due to the pandemic. And then also we have been deemed the primary reentry program in the state of Maryland, especially around Baltimore City residents, to deliver full services and wraparound services to the entire family. We only outsource domestic violence and legal services. Our direct referrals come from public defenders, state's attorneys, hospitals, schools, and the Department of Corrections. So how all of this applies to this audience here is that the major barrier within for returning citizens is housing. Securing housing for the reentry population is limited, restricted, and it is unfortunate because most of these individuals do want to come home and do better, regardless of their past crimes or bad association, or even if they have a mental or physical disability. Let's just think back to all the things that we have done. Some of them, of course, are not proud of their charges and how it affect the community, themselves, and their family. But then we think about things that we have done. Things that we've done yesterday, things we've done the day before, things we've done 10, 20, or 40 years ago. Guess what? You didn't get caught. They did. And we regret their act. They regret their acts. We regret our acts. And it's just that they did not have the support system, the education, or the resources to not even go through that process. And some of them have had that, but just not in the way that they needed those services, especially if they had a mental health or a substance abuse issue. In my case, personally, someone saved me, or maybe someone saved you. Sometimes people have parents to hold them down, a grandparent, a friend, or a mentor. Unfortunately, we serve 220 people a year. We're currently at 146 participants as of today's date. And most of them have not even heard of a mentor, or they have not chosen the positive and healthy friends and placed boundaries around them, which led to them being in most of their situations. It's all about survival mode for them. Many of them, when they don't have a house, when they don't have education, when they don't have medication management, it's a struggle for them to even recover. And so this program and many other ones, grassroots and other organizations do this. From No Struggle, No Success standpoint, we stand really close to our participants. We don't just give them a piece of paper or email address or phone number and say, go about your way. We actually sit right next to them and say, hey, if you want to invest into your own self goals, then we will follow you for 18 months to ensure that you do. And even after those 18 months, we will give them a check-in during that time. We have to remember that the police, the attorneys, the judges have already sentenced them. They've already gotten their consequence. So there's no further room for judgment. It's now how can we do better in the community for themselves, and they be accountable for their actions moving forward. And then us being a support system. That's the ones that's on this call, those programs that have been awarded for housing and all those things that they need to make sure that they do get the same type of treatment and equal opportunity for housing. No Struggle, No Success respects the housing market, those investors, those private and commercial landlords. We do want to build a relationship with you guys. We want to make sure that when we refer and recommend individuals to housing units, whether they can afford it because they've now gotten a job, they've now gotten that financial literacy piece, they understand the importance of having a lease and protecting and maintaining that property. But we also want to make sure that those housing units are not slum landlords and that they comply with the state and city regulations into even being able to rent. So like today, my program manager is out ensuring that the house that this particular participant has meets the needs of her and her family, whether it's making sure that the gas and electric is turned on and her understanding the credit and the deposit behind it. It's really fine case management services to ensure that that she gets what she needs and that the property manager gets what they need as well. And we just act as a mediator between the two. What else do I want you guys to know? We try to bring awareness not only to our participants, but also our community partners. We believe in authentic resources and quality. So we try to make sure that their information is updated in the system with their case managers if they are on a housing list, if they are, if all of their documentation is up to date, and showing that they, understand what their credit looks like, what landlords look for during those times. We also do guest speaking events like this to make sure that you guys know that there are community partners out here and organizations out here that want to utilize those services for affordable housing for the undeserved and vulnerable populations. Always think back to thinking about an example, someone that is not a returning citizen, that have collected bills throughout the years, who've gotten all types of debt, whether student loan debt or credit card debt, being in school and just learning how to transition as an adult, and have failed in the finance department. They're able to file for bankruptcy. And within 180 to 2 years, they're able to get a house, a car, and a fresh start on life. But someone that has served time in prison, whether 5 or 30 years ago, whether they were innocent when they did it or they were not, they can't even barely get a studio apartment or a room to rent simply because someone is looking at their past record from 30 years ago. And now they're homeless and they're repeating that cycle of survival mode of hurting other people when they really don't, or scared to go to the doctors to maintain their medication, or they have so many different triggers from being abandoned or neglected simply when all they needed was a house or a space of their own. And so we try to make sure to let them know that, first of all, we do not condone anyone doing anything that's going to prevent self-harm or harm to others, and that they do follow code of conduct here, and that we work alongside to ensure that we do find them suitable living arrangements. Currently, we do work with transitional housing shelters and realtors who have a passion to ensuring that these individuals can know how to utilize their subsidized housing voucher, and or once they get a job and they maintain it and they have a bank account and those things that are favorable to property managers and case managers to ensure they say, hey, listen, no, we do have a unit available for you and you meet the criteria. But we may do a lot of recommendation and say, hey, SNS supports that program participant because they have done those amount of days and engage in program activities to ensure that they understand that we took a chance on them and they need to go ahead and be self-sufficient and accountable for maintaining that property since they so desperately work towards it. We vet all of our community partners. We want to make sure that, like I said, that we are in compliance, they are in compliance, and the case managers and those property managers as well. We don't want any situations where someone that has mold in their house are not attentive to managing that property, because what happens is that they don't really know how to articulate the correct way of asking for those maintenance requests. And so to avoid any triggers, we utilize the mentors to go into that fact. So we just want to make sure that all property managers, all units that's available to those that population, that things are up to par and that they correctly know how to ask for maintenance requests. That's just something small. We make sure that they know that their rent is due at that particular, first of the month, and that it's important not to be late, and that, they're trusting you and they're going off of maybe an SNS or going off of that, the good work that they've done and the goals that they achieve. So we really push really hard to make sure that before we even involve a property manager or investor, that they really know the importance of maintaining their house. We try to make sure that those ones that are in domestic violence situations, that they are also get the same accommodations as well, that we look for resources within the state when it comes to relocation. We had an individual who was married for 13 years and was recently diagnosed with a medical disorder, and her husband tried to had some domestic violence issues. She's now relocating to the state of Maryland. And so, and because everything was underneath her husband, she didn't build enough credit. And so now we said, you know what, she has her SSI award letter. She has a decent part-time job. And so as she focuses on her mental health and recovering, we need a place for her to stay. As of tomorrow, she'll be moving into her own private space to start her new life. So we do make strides to ensure that we help our participants spiritually, financially, emotionally, and we utilize those community sources around us. As it relates to our realtors and other housing owners, they give us a landing mark of how landlords are represented. Some of them ask for a credit score of 600 or higher. They look at criminal backgrounds, anything serious related to drugs and violence. I will let you know that No Shrug, No Cess do not allow any program participants to come. We do not allow anyone to come into our program that have anything related to first degree, second degree rape, or child molestation charges. We allow other community partners and the reentry sector to deal with those. We necessarily don't, not simply because we can't get them into housing. It just has another beast that we just don't want to address. Other than that, any race, any culture background, any religion, and any age between 11 on up are welcome to come in the program if they meet the criteria within the legal and criminal system. We think about their rental history. We understand that landlords need something to go off of. So unfortunately, some of our clients have served 20, 30, and 40 years and have never had a rental history. So then what we do, we put them into a transitional housing setting for a few weeks or a few months to figure out if they can abide by their rules, and let them know what evictions look like and make sure that their payments are done on time. We also ensure that we allow to do house visits to help the landlord, or even at transitional housing, how they doing in the program, how they doing at this house, are they keeping themselves neat and clean, and they're respecting other spaces in that room. So we look at these things to let them and to respect that property. As it relates to representing the tenant and those vouchers, many of those individuals who have housing vouchers, credit scores are under 580, and really don't have a background, but they may have a medical or mental health diagnosis. So at that point, we make sure that they are in line with the therapist, that they do implement PRP services, and then we put them into financial literacy courses. We are sponsored by BB&T Bank and NICU, and then we also have partners within the school system for those young adults that transition as 18 and older, to ensure that they work on their credit and that they don't get caught up in, applying for credit cards and not keeping it up, or when they're in school and understanding their student loan process. There's a lot of case management, hand-in-hand services that's there. We also think about people that come through our program that don't know anything about credit, don't have an interest in even getting a housing voucher, but really want to have a job of their own and be treated as a member in society. And so they go out, they get this apprenticeship skills, they go and get a job, and they sometimes make more than I do and what you do, but they really don't understand what it is to obtain a housing. So then we look at them and we, continue with their case management services, but we go a little bit deeper. We put them in with a realtor and ensure that they understand, again, the leasing process. They understand the importance of keeping money in their bank account, so they have a line of support and documentation when someone wants to want to be able to apply for a house. And in addition, if they rent this house for a year, that realtor meets back with them every 6 months to say, hey, listen, you know what, you're doing really good. Your credit score is going up. I think it's time for you to transition into home buyingship. So then we go ahead and look for those community programs such as Central Baltimore, Partnership Baltimore, Carvel Community, St. Ambrose, of those such. They come in and they do presentations to ensure that we get them along the way for home buying. All of those things, we make sure that we place resources that are available to each client according to their needs. And then also make sure that any of our landlords or our housing community partners who have available affordable housing or those vouchers, that we actually have access to them so we can continue to teach them better ways of obtaining it. And it should not be based on, hey, you can't get this apartment or this house because you have a mental disability or because you have a background. These returning citizens truly want to change. We do have a few that have not had enough, but we would never put those individuals in front of a housing unit just yet. They just need a little bit more mentorship. They need a little bit more guidance, just to clean up the things before we even put them there. And so just in closing, just to let you know that we're located in Baltimore City. We're on 2025 Maryland Avenue. I have about 15 program staff and about 28 community partners. We do have them along for women's services, men's services, and for youth. And if anyone is interested in touring our facility or learning more about us, you definitely can go to the website. My program manager, Stanley Mitchell, just came back, and he is definitely boots on the ground, ensuring that each person that come home, he's did it himself. He did 38 years in prison, only for them to tell him that, hey, this was a mistrial, and he's now 73 years old. So we think about those ones that come home from prison over the age of 65, who've been away all those years, that do not have a rental history. He was fortunate enough to come home to family, but what if he didn't? Or what if, you know, his loved one who maintained that property or bought that house never added him to the lease? All those things we think about to ensure that they have stability on their own along with their family. And so he uses his peer, he talks to his peers about his experience, the things that they can't manipulate him on, and along with the other staff here. Every program staff that's here, either they have had a returning citizens background, or myself, like my son is currently incarcerated, have really been a direct impact on negative and positive effects of returning citizens. I think that's about it, Chelsea. I know that there's video footage of me and Stan, and even my son who's currently in prison. He was charged as an adult at the age of 15, and he's currently serving a 10-year sentence for a fight that happened in Frederick County, Maryland. And he actually is the one that came up with the name of our organization, which is No Struggle, No Success. So he is self-rehabilitating, and when he comes home, he has a reentry program to be able to navigate out his plan, his home plan. And he has a support not only from me, but from community leaders and program staff. And so if you guys have any questions, concerns, again, if you did want to do a tour, we do it on Thursdays and Fridays. We only allow up to 3 people to come at a time due to COVID. And so that's us for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeanette. That was a great presentation, and the work that your organization does is amazing and very much so necessary. Very much so necessary. So one of the things I was wondering, like while you were talking, and anyone feel free to chime in either in the chat with questions. Hey, either in the chat with questions or the Q&A. So what would you say when you're helping somebody with moving into a housing unit in the community? How do you help landlords or the property owners with like understanding what it is that the individual, you know, the fact that they're in the process of going through rehabilitation in the community? How is it that you have that conversation typically? Like, do you use resources or information that you have found helpful in getting people to understand that this person has the right supports and they will be successful?
Well, it's two ways that we do that. Once we identify a potential landlord, one, our realtor, which is actually on the line, is Anita Roberts. She's one of our primary realtors that go out into the community, and she finds out the needs of what that property manager really wants and the particular candidates that they need. And then she comes back and say, this is what he's willing to do, and these are the things he's not willing to do. And those things that he's not willing to do, Stan or a community worker will come and say, hey, listen, well, this happened 30 years ago. What can we do? Or this happened 5 years ago. And this has nothing to do with his finances or that what led him to that situation. We never go in detail about why that crime happened and all those things, because again,
Right.
we leave that up to the lawyers and the judges to do. But we do try to educate them. And then if it's needed, if they become a partner of ours, we do send our letter of recommendation and accommodations. And we do let them know how many times they engage with us throughout the month. And those things, hey, they came and got their ID. They came and finished their apprenticeship. Just to let them know that everybody needs a chance, a fair chance.
Yeah, agreed. Very much so. Stephanie had a question she put into the chat. Do you ever need volunteers to assist with anything, or do you accept donations?
Yes, we are. Our youth. We have about 5 great youth who have came on board to be youth mentors. Our lower level of our, we are on the 2nd floor, but the bottom floor is being renovated. And so we accept donations, clothes, light furniture items, PPE equipment, and sanitation. So typically when someone gets into their new home or they're preparing for a job interview, we have clothes for them. And then if they are going into a new home, we want to give them a care package of, toiletries and maybe curtains and those kind of things. So yes, we definitely accept donations. Donations are accepted on Mondays and Wednesdays. And if there's another day that you do, Stan and I will coordinate according that way. And we definitely look to having safe and volunteers. We have volunteers who do safety calls for us. We have volunteers who come and do events with us, maybe mentorship, or even if they do have housing and they do have a perspective on a housing voucher and the best way how to use it, we love to have all of those. So Stephanie, just reach out to us and we definitely give you a application. We do a background check just simply because we do deal with youth as well. So and you let us know what you thrive in. We do have people that come and do resume building, maybe U-hauling, or we have a cleaning company who comes and say, you know what, whoever is successfully completing your program, we'll hire them.
That's awesome. Are there other organizations like yours in different parts of the state? And if so, like where will we get information on that?
Okay, so gratefully, we're the only reentry program who do youth and adults. There are several different reentry programs. Prior to us starting our program less than 18 months ago, we did a research the last 7 years. There's 23 different types of reentry programs in Maryland. Most of them do not deal with youth at all. Some of them deal with certain populations, certain crimes that they will not allow or do allow. But I will say we take pretty much not anyone, but anyone that is serious about coming home, because we do go into the prisons. There are definitely programs that support what we do. So when they need expungements, if they need to talk about their lease agreements, or if they are falling behind in certain bills, we try to catch those things and work with those partners that provide those particular services.
That's great.
Absolutely. We're the only one that has everything on site.
Oh yeah, he is actually right. We're the only reentry program that's a full service.
On site.
Oh,
on site.
on site. Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. So do you guys, I know you said that you often will go out to prisons to actually, do outreach in the prisons themselves. Are you going what does that look like? Are you guys going just like within Baltimore City, or are you going like outside of Baltimore City? Because I know that there's a number that are not in the city.
Still afternoon.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Stanley Mitchell, the program director of NS. In regards to the issue you just spoke of, I personally go into the facilities maybe once or twice a month because I was in the facilities. I know both staff and people that live there. So as a result, we're well known throughout the state in every facility. So as a result of that, we get referrals from case managers, institutional case managers. We get them from the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Baltimore State's Attorney's Office. We're in the process now of setting up that we can go in on a regular basis to hold a class. Everybody is within 6 months of release. This is what we can do for you. All right. They used to have like before this COVID stuff, drug counselors just come in and conduct, drug classes, but they never had no program came in that was going to help a guy after he got out. So we're in the process right now of being able to go into the institution and meet with small groups of individuals that are 6 months prior to their release. So mainly because we need to be able to, the problem that we're running into that we're trying to resolve is that a lot of individuals are getting dropped off to us with nothing. I mean, literally a couple of weeks ago, 3:30, 3:45, we get ready to go out the door. We get a call from a guy say the ECI, Eastern Corrections, just dropped him off downtown Baltimore with his medication. That's it. So he bought a cell phone and called us because somebody in the jail had told him to contact No Struggle, No Success.
And he
So we
with us.
so we happened to be here. It was like 3:45. So I went and picked him up and brought him to the office. And because of the lateness of the day, I was going to put him in a hotel overnight. So, and also while he was here, we gave him a cosmetic bag and some underwear, different things he may need. Also a few dollars, and we was off to take him to the motel. But I said, let me check something out. I called one of our partners, 70 times 70. I said, look, they just dropped the guy off me just now. I'm ready to put him in the hotel. And she said, why? Bring him here. I said, you'll take him? She said, yeah, take him. I got you. So we was able to take him there, and they fitted him in. And it's not a hotel, but I tell them all, and they agree with me, it's better than a cell. So we've had situations like that, right, where these guys just literally just get dropped off, and we have to step in. But we're well known in throughout the state. We get referrals from PG County,
Frederick County.
Frederick County, DC have reached out to us also. But
To
Yeah.
add to that, we do. So unless we have a direct referral from someone, we do, like we have to go to Hagerstown next week, and we also have to go to Eastern Shore to meet with people that are due to come home. So what we typically do when we meet with them one-on-one, we look at their infraction list to see what their behaviors was while they were in prison. We also talk to them about what they really want to do when they come home and what they thought about since they had the time to think about it. Or did they take advantage of what was available to them while they were in prison? All those things, if they doing this on their own with the restrictions that DOC puts on them, then we know for a fact that when they come home, we can say, we met with you in person. We know exactly what we discussed personally, how we talk to your case manager. So we kind of really rely on their reputation and what they did in prison. Again, not to judge, but to see if they actually qualify for NSNS services outside. There was a question that says, will we expand to other counties? We actually do. We're located in Baltimore City. Baltimore City is our residents or returning citizens take residence. However, we have Baltimore County. We do have people in PG County, Montgomery County, and those reentry navigators from like Anne Arundel County and different other Hagerstown, of course. We do take them because they're returning citizen. And sometimes they may have started in one county or started in Baltimore City, but choose to go to another county. So as long as that we can continue to expand resources along those case management needs and getting those authentic resources, we will happy to continue even having an office in those other counties of support.
I might add that if you don't fall into the sexual category, or that you're on the register or first degree sex offender, then we're not allowed to take you into our program. But we also don't turn nobody away. What we tell people that, look, we're here for you. We're here to provide the services for you. But you have to want this. And if you don't want this, you're wasting time for somebody that does want it. And I try to be straightforward with them. And anybody comes here, we don't put them out. They put themselves out. We have a referral form. We send a referral form to you. It has all the services that we supply. I didn't check off when you said you wanted to get a GED, or you said you wanted to work, driving a truck, you check that off. So I expect that when I get you an appointment, if somebody said push you where you want to be, that you show up, and that you show up prepared. We go as far as that we have a barber on staff. We not only dress them, give them haircuts also, plus transportation. So anything that they ask for us, I hold their feet to the fire on that, because I tell them point blank, hey, I didn't ask for this. You asked for this specific services. So I said, we don't ask you for no money. It's all free of charge, but we ask you for something that's more valuable. We ask you for your time. And we don't want to waste yours, so don't waste ours.
Right. Yeah, that's completely understandable. And one of the things that, at least in our programs, there are times when, we're working on leasing a new property, and an individual might have a criminal background, but the charges are very old, could possibly be expunged if the case manager connects them with the right people to go through an expungement clinic. But in addition to that, sometimes offenses might be linked to a disability. And if there is a nexus, a connection between the disability and the offense, and they're able to write a reasonable accommodation letter to be considered by the property, we've had people be able to successfully be housed that way. We just had a gentleman who Christina and I are very familiar with for years. He's been waiting for a housing opportunity, and he finally got one through our program. And unfortunately, it's because of his background that he was just turned away, many times by properties. And he, did not have he didn't know that he could write a letter to indicate that his offenses were linked to his disability. So I think
Write a letter
that's
to the credit report for discrepancy, or
Yeah.
forgiveness. You should be able to write one for you. Again, it's not about it's not that we're not saying that, hey, if they murder someone or if they had a
Right.
handgun, that they're not accountable for what they did. That's not our department. It's placing them back into the community,
Yep.
and really letting these private landlords and anyone that is interested in housing people, that I'd rather see them try their best to maintain their property than have them sleeping in a car or a
Yep.
park bench. Or they choose to say, you know what, no one else wants to help me, so let me go do a crime. At least in prison, I have what I need. And all these
Yeah.
tax dollars go to that mass incarceration. So I really think that the more that these property landlords and these housing units understand that there are programs like myself and others that really want them to be housed, that we're willing to do whatever we can for them, as long as they're doing it for themselves, to make sure that they find housing. There's enough property, there's enough land out here to build. And
Yeah.
vacant houses that they actually, you can let them teach them how to Delegate Wells has this home improvement program that they put them through, where they learn how to do the drywall and all those necessary things to renovate a place. Let them redo it so they can have a place, so they can actually earn and say, you know what, I actually put my sweat and hands and build this. So there's many different programs that motivates them. Living Classrooms is a really good partner that donates to us. And also we send referrals to them to make sure that they know what it is to restore their own communities as well. Or when they go into new communities, respect that those people that keep that community safe, that, hey, if they, welcome them with open arms to let them know what it is to be in that new community.
If I may, in my experience with landlords that I've dealt with to try to get individuals housing, their number one concern was how would they be able to maintain the rent. All right, that's their number one concern. I've never had no landlord say, well, we're not going to take Joe Blow because he's a criminal. Usually that doesn't even come up. And unless landlord specifically requests some information about the individual, and we tell them what we can within the guidelines, privacy, confidential guidelines, right? But I've never had to have that conversation. I mean, it's like, look, if he got the money to put the security deposit down and you can show me his disability letter or pay stub, that's what they're more concerned about.
But those ones that do give us problems, we do try to help them.
I try to talk to the landlord and explain, but because of the climate of this country right now, in the George Floyd incident, people are more wants to get on bandwagon. So a lot of doors are opening that people wouldn't have done it before. Like, this is a new thing. We went from ex-convicts to, I don't know, several names over the years they didn't call us, but now we're returning citizens. So they're not only getting PC correct in the language, but also in the mindset. But we don't volunteer no information to no landlord, because like I said, I've called landlords and said, look, I got a guy, he's working, he could pay his rent, he's got his pay stuff. I've never had a landlord say, well, what was he in jail for? Oh, I don't take convicts. I haven't heard that conversation. And no one concern was, could they
And if they maintain a property without damaging.
without damage to the property.
Right.
And I've talked to a landlord that rented to a person, and they were impressed with the client. How takes care of the place, take care of his place and stuff.
We've gotten really good feedback once we vet them and give those accommodations. So I can't wait to talk to Mr. Reed and the other Miss Graham and even Miss Vaughn about ways where those housing units, when they become available, how we can really navigate, and even with you, Chelsea, just to see. So
I have a thought that I believe that if we could get the city to give us a block, right? Give us a block. I can get the individuals that's going to live there to put sweat equity into that. And I guarantee you that will be the safest block in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of very successful sweat equity. I mean, Habitat for Humanity is the first thing that comes to mind, but I know that their presence is in Baltimore City, at least, seems to be more limited to Sandtown, Winchester, and I don't know outside of that where else they work. But I just want to, there's a question in the Q&A. Does NSNS reentry program include counseling addressing back and heavy child support payments? She says, I've had consumers who struggle to put food on the table after paying rent because they haven't been successful in changing their child support order to suit their actual financial income. Do you guys have any experience?
We just started. That's a great question. We just started that part. So part of the legal services that have been given to us community and how their credit report board passed through. So we do have counseling. That's part of that financial literacy courses that we do from 18 and older. So when we talk to you, hey, listen, if you want to have sex and have a baby, guess what? If you're not doing it correctly, child support can be used as a weapon. So we kind of divert that side. So we have those sex education talks, and those adults that have been on child support for many years and have been struggling. There is ways that we can help them from the banking standpoint, from our sponsors and or from the legal system, to ensure that both parents, and we use Family Tree for their co-parenting classes or those blended family challenges to ensure that they can have the correct resources and budget preparedness before they even go into a house, or if they already have one, how to maintain it.
Right.
So we're really new with that one. Those partnerships started in June.
That's great. Very good. Does anyone have any other questions for Jeanette or Stanley?
Thank you, everyone. I was just looking at Susie, and thanks again. I can always send some literature you guys' way and our fact sheets. I think I've given some to Chelsea, but we just updated some things because of the new jar. To be able to come home. So those 20 years are now adults, and those adults who have served 20 plus years are now getting a second chance. So many people are coming home. So I encourage those case managers and those property.
I think Jeanette might be freezing a little. Jeanette, are you there? I think the internet is freezing on me. I don't know if anyone, is anyone having issues with hearing Jeanette?
Yeah, it froze. I couldn't tell if it was her connection or my connection.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either. Jeanette, I think that you're frozen right now. So, oh, okay, she jumped off. She might jump back on, but yeah, so I mean, we work with people who are in this situation from time to time, and I understand that access to housing is a huge barrier for this particular population. So I'm really happy that there's organizations like Jeanette's to be out there supporting individuals who have disabilities who are also have reentry to society status. I think that the work that they do is just amazing and very important. There needs to be more of it. Hey, Jeanette.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm sorry. That was, you know how technology, the life of pandemic technology.
I get it.
We have people coming in, so I think the computer lab is being used too.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I totally understand.
We were just saying thank you for this opportunity. And again, I'll make sure I send you some updated marketing material.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Oh, Stanley, go ahead.
Where are you located at? All
My
over the
office
place?
is well, we're statewide,
Okay.
but my office is in Baltimore City. So that's where I live and work.
Yeah, I mean, like as Graham said, that we're open for anybody to I call it to come in and get the $2 tour, so they could actually see, what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
so
I'd love to do that.
It's safe here. We have, seats, COVID places, COVID special procedures in place. Excuse me. We also
Very
have
good.
armed. We also have armed security. So it's safety to come over here. And like I said, I really like to give people the $2 tour and let them see what we're actually doing. Just a physical location. And I think that's what makes us stand out. Because as Ms. Graham had told you earlier, I did 37 years, 6 months, 22 days, 18 hours straight. For them to say, my bad, they released me June 20th, 2013 with $18 in a bag full of blood pressure medication. One day I was living in the old man dorm in a facility. The next day I'm downtown Baltimore on June at 100 degrees, and I was 65 at that time. And
Oh, wow.
as Ms. Graham said earlier, I had my parents, my grandparents, they all were gone. Sisters and brothers were gone, but I still had some families still alive to assist me. Also had a
I think you
I
guys.
had to have plan B, but I didn't have. You help the University of Maryland. They had similar to what we're doing, but they didn't have no physical site. Basically, you called them if you needed something done. They would send an intern. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, but yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. But like I said, I really like, if you could find a time in your schedule to come by and see what we do. I really like the work to speak for itself.
Yeah, we'd love to. I mean, I definitely appreciate the invite. I'll take you up on that. I know where you guys are located. I think I've even passed by the building now that I know that you're on Maryland Avenue. I'm down there all the time. So, but yeah, thank you so much for presenting today. It was really great information, and just I really like that we're bringing more attention to this need that exists. And I think that it was very informative and helpful for everyone on the call. So
Chelsea, I
yeah.
just want to mention there was one last question in the Q&A.
Sure.
So Susan was asking, how challenging is it for Jeanette and Stanley to get their clients' birth certificates, social security cards, and Maryland IDs? So I don't know if they're still on the line and able to answer.
Of course, that's the number one. So it has been very challenging. It's been taking 4 to 6 weeks to get a birth certificate. And the same for a social security card. It's much faster on the NDA side because when someone come home from prison, they have a prison ID. There is like a punch, like an opening hole. One means that they can come and get it for a discount price, and if there's two, they can get it for free. So we get as NDA, or because especially due to the pandemic, is taking much because everything is remote for them. But we have been making some headway with point of contacts at different locations. We pay for birth certificates and IDs when they don't have it. And we also take them to those appointments to ensure that it follows through. So especially because I remember, when Stan said he came home, it wasn't even a picture on his ID because it was so many years ago. So now just learning that process, it is definitely hard. So we go into the prisons or meet and do their home plans, we try to gather as much vital records as possible so we can have that available for them, even appointment by the time they get home.
Yeah, because that hiccup for NSNS, because we have individuals that we had no contact with them other than, emails from their family or phone calls from their family, maybe occasional letter from them, maybe occasional three-way call from them. And
Right.
as a result of that, we're having individuals that are getting released. They don't have anything, but they come here and we're able to get them to go to work because they don't have no ID. We had a guy that got a job and his boss knew the situation and still hired him and let him work. But he told him, said, look, you have to have your ID, and he gave him a deadline. And so as a result of that, I had to make 3-4 trips to the vehicle to get his paper.
Okay, I think you guys are freezing up again, unfortunately. So let's see.
So just any questions? I'm sorry, the internet is acting up. We can they can call us and we can further it.
Yeah, okay, that's great. I appreciate that so much. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm gonna go ahead and pop the registration link for the next session we have next Thursday in the chat. So if you've not already registered for that, that presentation should also be very interesting. It is again at the same time from 10 to 12. It is discussing fair housing and discrimination. So that is a presentation that will be done by the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. So we have a speaker from their organization coming out to discuss that topic. And then we also have sessions on the 21st and 28th. So if you attend next week, I'll also send a little reminder in the chat on those upcoming sessions. The next 2 sessions will address the Violence Against Women Act and trauma-informed care. And then the final session will be sharing tenant stories. And I'll also talk about our survey research project we actually did last year of tenants that are in the programs. So thank you so much for everyone joining today. I will get the PowerPoint slides out to individuals who have registered for the webinar, and any follow-up materials from the speakers I'll make sure to send out as well. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.